So it's like 24-3 now. I got a couple clips of the second half. And listen, this is the difference though. You start talking about how the details of how you're running the routes. I mean, this is a different scheme, but when you go under center play action, you go under center because you want to run deeper routes. So you got the clear out, and now you got Watson coming underneath. But you got space. They run the cover two. The middle linebacker's chasing down the middle. You got the space. He's catching this ball at like 24 yards, right? At the last one I showed, he broke it 10. He drifted to 14. And this is why you run play action, because he fakes it, gets back to the drop, and you're gone. Now you can run different variations. You can make it quick. I understand all that. But when you're struggling as a quarterback, as an offense, it's like, let's go bread and butter and be the best at the basics of the sport. Let's just do that for a while until we get our feet wet. And then the last thing, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, good, I guess good for Green Bay for letting this one slide, but the clock goes to 0-0. Clock goes to 0-0. And apparently you can't review it. So they get a free play to Jaden to Reed, and it's basically start setting up their scoring situations. But really, really tough game. A couple observations. I think the game plan on offense is just difficult to justify given the personnel they have. You got the quarterback in the pocket. I'm talking about the second half. Listen, if you made halftime adjustments or they took the foot off their gas or whatever you want to call it. I've been in these games before where you score like 5 touchdowns in a row. And all of a sudden it's like, well, we're just going to run it out. We're running 4-minute for the entire second half. Ben Johnson, I think, started playing football again about, halfway through the fourth quarter. Quarterback's in the pocket. He's holding. He's got to look at the second, third read. Like the Lions just had a better system than the Packers. And the Lions thought that they could get home with 4, and they did. They could drop 7, get Jordan Love to make a second or third read, and get home. And they outplayed us. But given what we have, given the left side of the line is out, given you have young players at certain positions, particularly the tight end and the wide receiver position and the quarterback position, you don't have a lot of like layered in-cut routes early on in the game. Like these things just, it's easy to look back and say it didn't make sense, but it didn't make sense, And you can't establish, you cannot establish a run game if you come out and you just start passing the ball around the yard. It just doesn't work that way because you don't have that good of inline blockers. Like, in other words, there's only certain things you guys are good at right now anyways, especially with being depleted on the offensive line and Aaron Jones coming back for his first game in 2 weeks. There's only certain things you're good at. You got to start working them. You can't just go, oh, we passed it 6 times, didn't work. Let's run the ball twice and then pass it again, for another 3 and out. Alan McNeil, we talked about, was just a problem running pass. I don't know if he's an up-and-coming player. I don't know if he's really good the last couple of weeks. I need to study him more, but he looks really good on film for a defensive tackle. I think they have a good one there. The Packers' defensive philosophy. I want to be very specific about this. The team is not soft. I love some of the guys on that team. And I'm showing you some stuff on Quay, not because I think Quay's going to be really good. He's just not doing some very obvious things right now on film, and it hasn't been fixed. Their defensive philosophy based on that, though, is soft. The players are not soft. The scheme is soft, and you cannot play against good offensive lines, dynamic offenses with good play callers, if you're going to sit back and catch on the second level. You can't do it. You got to be an attacking team. What kind of team do you want to be? You got a dog in Kenny Clark. You got a run stop and stud in Preston Smith. You got a absolute unit in Rashawn Gary. You got a lockdown in Jair Alexander, who didn't play last night. What kind of team do you want to be? You've given up 422 yards, split down the middle, 211 yards in 2 out of the last 3 games. That is I've never even heard of that. You might as well be playing high school ball. These guys have pride. They have families. There's no way you're giving up that many yards. If you stunt in the game, if you're running all this, you got to fill gaps. You got to be on the attack. You got to be more aggressive. And I said this before a little bit, the tone of the game feels like if you were to embody what Dan Campbell, I know Dan, but what everybody out there thinks of him, this team plays like Dan Campbell acts. And you got to start asking yourself, if you're an owner, if you're a locker room guy, whatever, isn't that exactly what the hell you would want? Like, you can have a smart guy, but that is all. Dan is a smart guy that is also emotionally aware of how to get these guys playing at an extremely high level. Too many times, I don't know if I can say that about this organization in its current state. Mike Holmgren was that kind of guy, 30 years ago. What did I get wrong? Well, I didn't get it wrong. I was hoping that the tackles would be unhealthy for the Lions. I thought Decker was going to play. If Decker didn't play, I thought Colby Solzer would play right tackle, and we had Rashawn Gary and Colby Solzer all night. And I felt a lot better about Preston against Penei Sewell on the left side than the right side. But the game's different when you got those guys in there because they're a top offensive line unit. They've got all-pro center. They've got 2 first-round picks at tackle, right? They're very, very well coached by Hank Fraley. I mean, Hank Fraley is one of the top offensive line coaches now in the National Football League. For years, he has been. They're technically sound. They have a great menu of different kinds of runs and play action passes. In other words, they can do everything. They're a good zone team. They're a good gap team. They're a good man team. They're a good pull team. They can run play action pass under center. They can run it out of pistol. They can run it out of gun. They can pull guys with the run pit. They have anything you want to run, they can run. That's why they're good. Every one of those, the backup 60 yesterday was turning Kenny Clark. Can't believe it, but he did it. The Packers did have opportunities. I think I talked about this because of the way that Detroit was going to play, that we had opportunities with Luke Musgrave. Musgrave gets hurt. They didn't really run those kind of second, different layered, tiered in-cut routes early in the game. Jordan didn't good. He was just not in rhythm with his wide receivers, so that was a difficult area. But I think Love is a sitting duck in that pocket, even with only 4 people rushing, with the current iteration of that offensive line in drop back mode when he has to go to his second and third read. Okay. And he's waiting for that second window too often. He's either throwing off his back foot and it goes high, or he's running for his life, or he's getting sacked. You have to make this more obvious and easy early. You have to have more adjustments. I mean, this is what you're missing when you don't have Aaron Rodgers. More adjustments at the line of scrimmage. For all the other stuff. And this is part of it. You're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. Newsflash, right? But this is what you're missing right now, is like, I can turn a bad play into a good play or a manageable play. Right now, I don't think that we're capable of doing that at the level that needs to happen in the National Football League. So those are the things I got. I don't think I got. If we look at the first show the preview show, I think it was one of the few shows that we were pretty spot on. What are the areas of opportunity for this team right now? And I didn't write anything new from last week when we won the game. Offense, the running game has to improve. Now, the game plan was sabotaged more by penalties last week than this week, but you're averaging 3.3 yards per carry for the season. I think you averaged like 2.3 yards per carry in this game. Your running backs got 10 carries total. You didn't even, you talk about establishing the run, but you're not establishing the run. You got guys making mental errors with hinge blocks. It's just Keystone Cops. Got to be better. Does Stenavich need to go back into that room? I don't know. They were a lot better when Stenavich was in that room. I think we can say that, and I know they're missing guys, but I think we can say that now without hurting anybody's feelings. That line was a lot better when Stenavich was in that room. Number 2, you had Jamar Gibbs, you had Montgomery. Those guys are good running backs. Last week, we shut down the Saints running game, shut down their defense or their offense, but they're missing Jamal Williams and they're missing Alvin Kamara. So against good teams with good offenses, good O-lines, dynamic running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs can't average 5 yards a carry. You can't run an end around for 40 yards. Montgomery can't have 3 rushing touchdowns. We just saw from a scheme point and how we're attacking that scheme with our personnel, it has to be more violent. It has to be, there has to be a greater intensity. It has to be better. It has to be cleaner. And then the last thing is we have to manufacture points at all phases of the game. You saw we got a turnover to convert it to 3. That 3 should be 7, but you got 3. I mean, but if you get the ball on the 16-yard line, or whatever it was, you got to score a touchdown. You can't go 3 and out because you pass the ball 3 times. We muffed a punt. Special teams, got to pick up your game. We got one of the best guys in the league out there returning kickoffs. He can't get past the 25-yard line. You see guys run into each other. Musgrave's looking to who to block on the kickoff. These things are not. I mean, every time this team loses, because this team could be 1-3 right now if we're just being real with everybody. They're a field goal, bad field goals away from being 1-3. And when this team loses, it's always the same stuff. It's not really that they ever got just out talented. Like they don't really. Sometimes you get out talented. Patrick Mahomes will out talent this team right now. But this team, you don't feel like you're going to get out talented by the Detroit Lions. You're getting outplayed. You're getting out coached. You're getting out schemed. Where do we get that back? You get out cultured, which is a hell of a thing to say, but it feels that way. So I got a couple of listener questions I'll hit. Number one thing, thank you for all of you whose kind words. I cannot play anymore. Look at me. I'm a shadow of my former self. I would get as bad as you think it is now. With me in the game, it would be that much worse. I would get somebody killed. I actually quit football because I was afraid I was going to get somebody hurt because I couldn't play with my right arm. How much of this is coaching? Listen, anything you allow or you condone, right? You might as well be coaching that thing. So if your linebackers aren't filling, you're coaching that thing. And you're allowing it, and you're coaching that thing. If you're not hinging on the backside, you're giving a hand check to a guy who's a penetrator, you're coaching that. You might as well just be coaching it, right? If you don't have good eye discipline, if you're getting off your first read too fast, whatever it is, if you're not communicating well, if you're bad footwork, if you're allowing it, you might as well be coaching. If you're condoning it, you might as well be coaching. So there's always blame to go around when you're playing good or bad, right? There's always credit and blame to go around that's equal. But I'm big on process. I'm big on the details. And when you keep saying this, you keep seeing the same things pop up, it's a head scratcher. We talked about this a little bit. There are empty gaps on defense sometimes, but not by design. But this is the thing that you got to give Joe Barry. Like, it's not Joe Barry's fault. Like, he didn't say, hey, run 2 people through the C gap instead of 1 through the B gap. Like, that's not what's happening. They're just making mistakes. Why are they making mistakes? That's the better question. And explain why the offensive line for the Lions is so good. I know there's a couple more here, but real quickly, I talked about it. They got an all-pro center. They got 2 really good tackles that are first-round draft picks. Hank Fraley is a really good offensive line coach. When Stenovich was in the offensive line, we had a really good offensive line. When James Campen was in the offensive line, we had a really good offensive line. Larry Bechtel had a really good. The coaching in that position matters because you got like 9 dudes on the team. 8 of them are going to dress. 7 of them or 6 of them are probably going to play. So 5 guys out of 11 are on the field all the time on the offense. It matters. You got to have a guy. I'm not saying that Buck isn't our guy. I'm just telling you that Hank Fraley's really, really good. And that's a reason that team is doing so well. So I think that's all we got for today. I hope everybody enjoys the weekend. This is going to be one of those weekends where you just got to go pick a team to root for or root against. I'm Mike Wall 68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying these shows. Please subscribe and review. Hit that like button on the Process to Perform channel on YouTube. We'll talk to you soon.